48-5-11, and then parentheses, small letter E, close parentheses. That is the statute on what is required to file an appeal for property taxes in every county in Georgia. And nowhere in that statute does it require you to declare a value. So don't let them intimidate you into doing that. Already, two of my friends have gone down there, and I told them don't put a number in there, and they tried to browbeat them into declaring a value, and they wouldn't do it, and I sent them back down. And the second time, when they cited the statute, they said, okay, we'll go ahead and take it. Now, that reminds me, the reason under the paperclip for the form that bears your name, you'll see that there are 2 copies of the PT 311A. The reason you want to take 2 copies down there is because one, the original is left with the Board of Tax Assessors. But the second thing you want to do is get that second one file stamped or marked received and signed. I'll sign it at the bottom. You want to keep that for your file with that receipt date on there at either by or before August 22nd. You don't want, it's ridiculous to get into an argument about whether you've timely filed or not in the way to obviously eliminate any uncertainty as to have a file marked copy of the form and keep that for your permanent file. So here's a quick tip on something that you can do. You remember the 7 Habits of Highly Effective book by Stephen Covey? One of the habits of highly effective people is to begin with the end in mind. Well, you want to begin with the idea of you eventually maybe trying and putting on evidence to the Board of Equalization. One of the things you can do at the time you file your appeal, what I'm going to do for all the people that I'm representing, is to attach a list of questions. They have to be questions that can be answered either yes or no, but that they are directed to the panel members of the Board of Equalization to try and ferret out and identify any biases or prejudices, especially against Sun City. I think we've all had an experience outside of the pearly gates of Sun City when we're outside the little bubble we live in here, wondering whether the locals are looking at us all that friendly or not. And I particularly am concerned that we have our property tax appeals heard by members of a panel of the Board of Equalization that are going to be fair to us and not be have any sort of undisclosed biases or prejudices. So I've constructed and I'm still working on a list of questions that I'm going to attach to all the appeals for people that I'm representing in 2013. And those questions have to be answered within 2 days by the panel members. And then after that, after we receive the responses, if that raises any concerns as to whether that panel member ought to be serving, we can object to those panel members in terms of them sitting on a panel that eventually hears our appeal, even though that may not be for another year. These Board of Equalization panel members are on there for a 3-year term, and we want to identify and exclude anyone who we suspect of perhaps not being as fair, neutral, unbiased as we would like to have sitting and judging our property values.
Excuse me?
Yes.
I apologize. We got in a little late, and I don't know if you covered this. What is the legal reason that these people have come at us with this new thing? I mean, what's the precedent?
Oh, there's property taxes literally goes back to the Roman ages. And
yeah, but I mean,
so property taxes have been around. It's in the Georgia Constitution, allowing counties every year to to send out assessments. And what's actually happened is that, and I'll give you all a little bit more history, especially those who weren't part of our Fair Burg last year. You'll remember that last year, suddenly, we all received these assessments that were rather, let's say there's a bunch of sticker shock when we opened our envelopes and saw what the 2012 assessments were compared to years earlier. And in the middle of the appeal period, much like what Mr. Lillard did here on Monday, the county had a session like this. The room was completely full, and for an hour, hour and a half, an outside consultant that the county had hired to do a countywide reassessment spoke on what they did. You can find it on YouTube. If you just go on YouTube and search Spalding County taxes, Sun City's tax assessor presentation, you'll find it. It was done in about mid to late August of 2012. You can watch it for about, it lasts about an hour. There's even 15 minutes where this outside consultant covered how to appeal your property taxes and gave some suggestions on what does and does not make for an effective presentation, what are good grounds and not good grounds, that sort of thing. But I don't think, I've watched it about 10 times and I still can't understand the basis on which they did their reassessment. I think it was, it wasn't so much what he said, but what he left out that is unhelpful. But that countywide reassessment was done, and as he explained in the presentation, it was something that was done for the first time in Spalding County in over 10 years. And what happened was they found that on a countywide basis, Sun City should get assessed heavier than other areas of the county. They were trying to equalize things out. They were trying to make things more uniform countywide. But wouldn't you know it, somebody put their thumb on the scale when it came to assessing Sun City values, and we wound up with a pretty large amount of the overall tax bill. So that's why I think there are such a large number of 2012 appeals, and there's been a fair amount of interest in 2013. Yes, you had your hand up first.
What's the county representative here? What's his name?
Chipper Gardner. I haven't met Mr. Gardner. I understand he's a good man. He does not live in Sun City. You know, he did vote for the latest tax rate increase. It went, you know, they use these units called millage rates, and you'll see at the bottom of your assessment. And it raised a half a mil, which on $100,000 adds an additional $30 to our property taxes. And that estimate that you see at the bottom of the assessment does not reflect that increased millage rate. When the dust settles after August 22nd and they see how many appeals there are and who didn't appeal, then they're going to send out the new bills, the final bills to those who aren't appealing. It's going to have that millage rate, that new millage rate built in. I think it takes it over 39 mills. Well, by state law, a county can't tax more than 40 mills. There are counties south of here who are taxing at about 30 mills per assessed value. So they're about 25%, 30 or 30% lower than we are. So we're getting hit pretty hard here. I think, and I am particularly saddened that the county does not see fit to exempt seniors from school taxes at any age. I mean, I think I'm sort of stepping on the foot of the soapbox here, but I think that what ought to happen here is at 62, we start phasing in some exemptions from school taxes. I think maybe it's 62, then 65, then but you're out by 70. Well, in counties like Henry and DeKalb, at 65, you're out. And I mean, if you look at your tax bill, half of your tax bill is going to school. So that is nothing that this property tax appeal process will be able to address. And if you handle your own appeal, you will lose all sorts of credibility if you utter one word about the millage rate or the exemptions. Yeah.
Is there any percentage of these claims that we've counterfiled that have been approved for dropping the rate?
Yes, there have, and there is reason to be optimistic. If you don't mind, I'll get to that in just a little bit. Now, after you file your PT 311A form, you have to carefully watch the information that comes to you from the Board of Tax Assessors. And this is, I got 2 people in my group who got tricked into losing one of their years of appeals by not reading their mail or reading it carefully enough. One was a gentleman over 39, one was a real nice lady in Pod 2. What they do is they send out, and they're allowed to do this, a 30-day notice of dismissal, or 30-day notice to appeal, or you'll be dismissed. Actually, they not only send out this form, and they're allowed to do this by statute. That is, if the Board of Tax, the process that actually happens is you file the appeal, and the Board of Tax Assessors has up until 180 days to look at your appeal. And they themselves can look at it and decide, hey, you know, the old guy's right. We've got him assessed too high, so we're going to lower it. So if they change it at all, they send you a notice in the mail saying we've changed your assessment, it's now lower. So you either have to appeal again 30 days from the date of this notice, and this one happened, this is on a 2011 appeal. It was sent out on April 8th. You probably can't see that, but the date of that notice is April 8th. And they said you have 30 days. They sent it out on March 8th. You have 30 days until April 8th to basically refile an appeal. What also happened is they included in the same envelope to this gentleman. If you can see that date up there, you see it's also dated March 8th. They sent saying, if you want to waive your appeal now that we dropped your number, they dropped it from, it was originally $249,650, and they dropped it down to about $240,000. So they gave him a $10,000 reduction. They said, since we have lowered it, how about, being a good guy and just dropping your appeal? Well, that wasn't good enough, and he wanted to maintain an appeal he had already filed. So he looked at this form, he says, I don't want to drop it. I'm not going to send this back. And he did nothing. But like I said, they also included this other notice, a 30-day notice to appeal or to be dismissed, and they dismissed his appeal, and they're not going to reinstate it. The same thing happened, like I said, to a nice lady over in Pod 2. And now they also appealed 2012, so they got that still to go, but it's a little bit disconcerting to have to deliver to these folks, and thankfully, that wasn't on my watch. I read I open my mail, I read it very carefully, and I make sure that rights are not compromised, or we don't sit on our hands and let the things drift away from us. But it's not very pleasant to have to deliver that news. So I'm just telling you, don't be confused or misled into losing an appeal. Now here's some of the statistics you may have been interested in. Out of the appeals that are pending in Spalding County, 3 of them are still from 2010. I'm representing 2 of those folks. 2011 appeals, there's 28. And actually, I found that there's 2 by former owners, people who moved away from Sun City. 85 are from 2012, and then owners that have both 2011 and 12 appeals, there's 12 of those. There's one guy, Bob Clay over in the 36, he's appealed 2010, 11, 12, he's appealed 13, God bless him. And he's not, we're not going down without a fight. So the total appeal years that Spalding County is dealing with in Sun City is 116. And when you factor in that they are not collecting 15% of the taxes, you'd think they'd move a little bit faster, trying to get to a point where we either have to write them a check, or they know whether maybe they have to give us back some, or at least what the balance sheet holds. As of July 22nd, this year, there is over 2,900 appeals pending countywide. 21 from 2009.
Wow.
205 from 2010, 645 from 2011, and over 2,000 from the 2012 assessment. So,
This year, you said that they have 180 days for the appeal to make a decision. So how can this drag out for this length of time?
well, here's the process. And there's 2 different boards involved here. Our legal opponent, the one that sets the appraisal rate, is the Board of Tax Assessors, okay? The Board of Tax Assessors. They get a free look at it for 6 months if they want. And they can, that's almost a mini appeal. That's like sort of like the first line of appeal. But if they either do nothing, or they go ahead and say, we're gonna contest the valuation, then they send it to this neutral Board of Equalization. That's the board that's made up of citizens from across the county. There's 15 of them on the board,